Andrea Harris will share a reflection on friendship and understanding.
Hi, everyone. Diversity girl. See, I was at a firehouse out in Washington Heights the first time I was called that name. I was hired here at the fire department in 2010 after the Vulcans had won a lawsuit. So my coworkers called me a diversity hire. Not only was I considered that, I was the only female in my crew. Beyond that, I was the only female cement mason at the fire department. Let's take it up a notch. I was the only female cement mason in the city of New York. Here at the fire department, my supervisor, his name was Dan Reynes. Now, they have a saying, rough around the edges. Dan Reynes wasn't just rough around the edges. He was rough all over. And I had to call into Dan every morning. And I would call in every morning and say, "Good morning, Dan. I'm at," and tell him my location. His response would be, "What's so good about it?" Give me my assignment and abruptly hang up. Now, this happened for about a week, maybe a month. And I said to myself, why am I saying good morning to this man who doesn't say good morning back? And for a week, I was like, I'm not doing it. Yeah. But it's not me. Good morning is something that's ingrained in me. So after a week, I called in and I said, "Good morning, Dan," every morning. And Dan's response was, "What's so good about it?" Assignment, click. That was about for a year. After a year, I called in one morning and I said, "Good morning, Dan." And I'm sorry. I called in and he picked up the phone and he said, "Good morning, Andrea." You know, I mentioned earlier that Dan was tough. He was tough on everyone. And as I said, I was a diversity hire, so no one thought I could do the job. But one of my favorite quotes is always be a first-rate version of yourself. Never be a second-rate version of someone else. Now, Dan was rough. Oh, he was rough. And after a while, Dan and I became friends because it was during the 2016 election cycle. Dan being a staunch Republican, and me being this woman who just voted whatever my issues were, taxes, whatever was benefit for my family. And I would come in the mornings and tell him little tidbits about the election and different places that he wanted to visit, and we grew a friendship. 2017, on my birthday, I lost my brother. And the week that I buried my brother, Dan Reynes was on vacation. He came down from his vacation to my brother's funeral. The following week, I came back to work and he said, "Andrea, I felt like I needed to be there for you." And I was appreciative. Because if you've ever experienced loss, you just appreciate any moment of time that someone could give you. Dan and I would go and we would survey jobs and look, and he would just tell me things just to make me just a little bit happy. On July 27th of 2017, Dan Reynes and I surveyed jobs that were upcoming for the department. And we drove by this place in Far Rockaway, and he was telling me things about his childhood, and we laughed and we talked, and it was a wonderful day. That night, Dan Reynolds passed away. I was one of the last people that he spent his last day on earth with. For his funeral, his family asked that myself and a few of my coworkers to ride in the vehicle to attend his funeral. Because they said that Dan Reynolds said that I was one of his true friends. Thank you.